It's not a pick that requires too much. It has very specifically straightforward mechanics that you have to execute with the ultimate and the engagements coming from your first ability. So it's a fairly easy hero to play, and Kiana has been performing very well on it. Lance gets picked up from Calamity, and this can go either to jungle and roam. I know Aeon plays it in the jungle too, so it can be a flex, but it will most likely be for the captain here to roll.
And banning away the Black Feather could mean that they want to get a Celeste for Leon. I feel like if you do want that, you have to pick it up right now, because if you let it go over to G2, they're just going to draft it around and for Hundor. So very smart for Calamity to pick this up, banning away the Black Feather, giving them that, taking away that counter, and then also just taking away that massive comfort pick for Hundor, now forcing G2 to have to go on to something a little bit different.
Absolutely, and this Krull has been a high priority ban across the course of today so far in Europe. No teams allowing that to go through. Nobody wants to let their opponents grab that one. Vox going to be locked in here for G2 though.
This is the Vox Fortress Grace that would make the most sense of, that would make the most sense from picking the Vox for Hondor in lane, because it allows them to have a very strong late game. With the Vox, generally doesn't come anymore just because of the nerfs that have been happening on him for the last few updates. So with the Fortress, just because he scales so well, there's the bleed procs, it allows you to scale very well as well. So G2 Esports going for a comp they've played before.
And G2 as a team has always been very big on this Fortress pick. They've always really liked this pick, even when other teams just weren't even thinking about it. I mean, going all the way back a few seasons, they've always been, when we'd go to live events, we'd talk to them and just be like, we think Fortress has a place. We think he's going to be really, has a compositions you can pull him out in. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But right now, it is definitely, this is a meta composition. This is an incredibly strong comp that now Calamity is going to have to find some way to deal with that massive aggression and the huge burst that comes out from those bleed stacks.
I mean, the way to deal with the Fortress comp is to have a really aggressive jungler that can go in there and shut him down. And that's what we said, what we already said Calamity needed to do, just because of the teams matchup. The Alpha, it's a weapon power Alpha. Alpha weapon power is extremely strong mid-game and early game. So if he's going to be going for the Sora Blade build, he can definitely get in there and shut down Fortress early on before he gets to scale. I like the pick.
So I have to ask, I mean, you're saying this in a very matter-of-fact tone, but the Alpha just got locked in. Like, I'm kind of mind-boggled. Like, what are we expecting to see out of this Alpha coming into the game?
Early aggression. That's what this pick is for. Alpha can be extremely strong early on. She is squishy, but it can be tough to actually kill her because of that reboot passive that she has. And with a Fortress, like, Fortress is all engage. Alpha is really good at chasing and preventing you from being able to get away from fights, which is they already struggle with.
All right, it's time to jump on into this one. Hashtag Vainglory on Twitter to let us know if you think that this Alpha pick is going to bring Calamity back on into the series. It's time to pass it over to our casters, Dowsy and Excoundrel once more.
Thank you, Munch. It is G2 and Calamity hitting the Halcyon Fold once more. G2 once more 1-0 up in their series, looking to make it a clean 2-0. We'll have to see what Calamity can say about that, Excoundrel.
Absolutely. I mean, Alpha, weapon power Alpha is not something that we see every single day. I think since the release of Spell Sword, I've expected to see a bit of weapon power Alpha here and there. I think the actual stats of it work really well. The build that I've generally seen people end up going has been the Sora Blade Spell Sword Breaking Point build. And actually, it functions really well in the mid game, very strong. And actually, even in the late game, can be a significant threat if you build that Breaking Point up. It's all about that elevator type of composition, though. You have something that is a significant enough threat in the early to mid game that allows you to contest at that level to then get your Celeste in the late game.
They're going to be looking to pick up this central treant. They find it now. Aeon's in a bit of trouble. Core Collapse doesn't quite connect, and Aeon's just going to get put into his passive here. How can Calamity save their jungler is the question. They can't. First Blood will go over to Dark Potato, and Ghost looking like he may just be the second on the menu for the Fortress, as Dark Potato will be able to get the kill over to his carry. Leon under turret. They're diving. Can they get the kill is the question. Core Collapse on to Dark Potato. He will fall to the turret. Hundor moves in, but into the bush goes Leon. Hundor just about escapes. Aeon is here, looking for a prime directive onto Hundor. Can't quite get it. Does jump over Aeon. Can he get the kill is the question. Hundor dipping and diving. Aeon should be able to walk up, and just a single auto attack will do the trick here. There's that Core Collapse up. Not Core Collapse. The ability that allows Alpha to dash forward.
Core charge, yeah. It's, funny story about that. I did make an Alpha video when I first started making videos, and the entire video I called it Core Collapse. And afterwards I realized it was Core Charge. I had to remake the whole thing. So I also have a funny story about calling it Core Collapse, but it was just a lot more effort on my part.
It's almost a sad story in your aspect.
Yeah, very sad story. What a wonderful outplay by Leon into the turret there. Just as he was outplayed a few times by Hundor in the previous game, actually managed to outplay G2's dive. G2, I think, had eyes of red there. They were searching for the 2-minute ace, or the 1.5-minute ace, I think it would have been at that point. But unfortunately, diving at that level is very precarious, and they paid the iron price for that.
What the hell? Calamity just face check a bush and just destroy G2. Ghost, so much aggression. They just predict that the Impale will connect with whoever was in G2's bush, and it worked out.
Yeah, and actually pre-Crucible era in the game, you're going to get some mega combos coming out if you can make that kind of sort of chain happen. The Impale into Core Collapse into Githia Wall. I mean, there was no way that Keanu, Nakora, or Dark Potato were even going to move in that scenario. Leon gets aggressive, they take away a couple of forward jungle camps here from G2, and suddenly they're off to a much quicker start than they were in the previous games. Much better for Calamity in general, you feel, because in terms of team fighting, they don't feel quite as solid as G2. So if they can snowball it to the point where you can make mistakes in team fights but still come away victorious because you've won the early game that hard, I feel like that favors Calamity in general for this team.
Well, we heard it from analysts that G2 typically have been known to have a far worse early game than their late game, where they just seem so strong. If you can challenge Dark Potato and Keanu Nakora in that early game, then maybe you can find a key to unlocking a win against the G2 roster. Calamity have certainly struck at the opportunity over aggression really from G2 at the beginning of the game. That's just allowed Calamity to kind of find themselves 1,000 gold in the lead.
Absolutely, and now Eon very closely working towards that Sorrow Blade first item pickup for himself. Leon has gone for the Eve of Harvest first, giving some energy regen, allowing him to clear waves against the likes of Hundor, who's going to start to push him in as much as he can as the the Prime Directive actually lands, but don't think Eon's going to do anything with it, just looking to get a bit of cheeky damage down onto Hundor. Dark Potato also finished his Storm Crown, but really not going to come online until he gets that Aftershock finished up either. And then it's a question as to where he builds that from thenceforth. We were talking about Mouse Sports, and you said that they run this Fortress composition where they go Storm Crown, Aftershock, and then it's Fountain Crucible, or whatever else they need to protect the Vox. G2 don't often play the same way as Mouse, but I'm wondering which one would be better this time round.
Right, so Mouse, they run Aftershock Tension Bow and then into Captain items. G2 go a fairly more typical Fortress build. Hasn't worked out for them yet here in the Vainglory 8, though G2 argue they're the early adopters of this composition. Look at this, Calamity Reborn turning the fight onto Hundor. Here comes the Solar Storm, he's impaled, he can't move! Great setup by Ghost to help Leon out there. A kill goes over to this Celeste, and now this turret may just go down as well. Good disengage comes out of Ghost with that Githyan wall to knock Keanu Nakora back, making the Holy Nova not as impactful as it could have been. Calamity will move into the jungle once more to steal away the fronts.
Leon actually being given every ounce of gold on this map right now, and again, Celeste has been such a power pick for this particular reason. If you have a player that can pilot Celeste, and you can pilot her well, she just absolutely rolls over teams if she gets that gold input and hits those item spikes as quickly as possible. Leon almost level 8, about quarter level or third level of experience. That's the major level spike for the Celeste specifically. Once that comes online, Leon's going to start to run away with things, and it just feels like G2 item-wise are a little bit further behind and might not be able to contend with that range and damage that Leon is going to bring to the table.
Throws me back to the spring season when Leon was competing for Team Secret, playing a lot of Celeste back then as well. It was working great for them. Very good at this hero. We haven't really seen him this season on it yet, but look at this, the confidence he has to frontline. Now he has level 8, pushing this fairly short-range composition G2 has back under their turret. And now this turret may just boot down as well. Everyone on G2 is in trouble. Core Collapse doesn't connect, but a Fountain will be forced, and Calamity are only moments away from taking the first turret of the game.
And you can see from, the way that... wait a second.
G2 thought they had an opportunity to dive in there, but Calamity Reborn are able to rebuttal. Yeah, Aeon just dives forward, and he will find a kill. He's going to blow up. Kiana Nicole will take a bit of damage, and Kiana Nicole will go down to Leon as well. The action not quite over there, Scoundrel. Sorry about that.
No, I was just about to mention as Leon looks for the snipe, doesn't quite find it. And Dark Potato actually manages to escape there. Very, very close, like you said. Leon's one of the only, I think, carry players that I see, especially on the likes of Celeste, that can be this aggressive. He also searches in terms of his skill shot location to predict and catch out enemies' movements as opposed to just trying to hit them where they stand. He's so clever in the way that he does it, and sometimes he's over clever with it, and it misses outright. But he pulls off these incredibly flashy moments, like you saw there on Hundor. The core collapse placement wasn't exactly where he stood. He did it to try and make it difficult for Hundor to actually escape using the sonic zoom, and Hundor literally only escaped by a sort of couple of pixels, it felt like, in that situation. But Calamity now so far ahead, especially with just this powerhouse Celeste. Eon now picking up I think he's going to go towards a breaking point, I imagine, here, as he's got a heavy steel in tow with the swift shooter. That would be my guess. So they're hitting item spikes quickly here. Hundor very, very far behind in terms of his own offensive item spikes now.
Certainly is. Hundor hasn't got that Sorrow Blade just yet. He is just moments away. In fact, he'll rotate down to the shop and he'll have the passive gold tick over to 1300 so he can complete it. But there is no reflex block for this Vox just yet, which makes him an easy target for impales like such. He does get rooted on up. Core Collapse stunned. He is CC locked and he is just about dead. It's going to be G2 now in trouble as Calamity move into the jungle. And Kiana Nakoa will fall. A double for Leon Celeste. Gold miner will be so easy for them to take. They don't even need Leon to threaten it. He can move up and put pressure onto the turret.
Let's strip these teams down a little bit in terms of all the way down to basics and say, okay, G2 played an incredible game last game, didn't even look close, they made it look easy. Calamity doing something very similar. There's a consistent factor between these two teams that happens to be the Celeste. Maybe going into this final game, but what a snipe. I mean, Leon just absolutely disposes of Dark Potato there. Going to this next draft, you do feel like Celeste is probably going to be taking up the cards now.
Yeah, and Hundor's likely to fall as well as he gets impaled up, he gets knocked against the wall. Kill goes over to Aeon. This could just be the ace as well. Kiana Nakoa trying to find the seconds, but the seconds don't come through. The ace will be there. And Aeon with the termination protocol will survive the turret blast. This is core play from Calamity, just showing so huge. Leon Celeste is threatening. We haven't seen it this season, but it is so threatening. G2 have been reminded that they cannot allow the Celeste to fall into Leon's hands.
I think this Aeon of the Alpha could have literally been anything. Like, I could have literally picked anything and it probably would have still had the same outcome. G2 looking to engage here.
Let's see what they can do. Might just be a fool's errand at this point, as Aeon happy to tank up the damage. He's stacking up that breaking point, and Kianoko is dead. Here comes the Solar Storm. It's going to rip through, but the Gold Miner perhaps protecting them for half a second. Aeon says, never mind. I have a double kill. It's another ace for Calamity Reborn, and we were harsh, perhaps, to Calamity Reborn in the previous game. Excalibur certainly was. They have really stepped up their efforts in this second game.
Yeah, and it's 10, 11 minutes into the game. They've got a similarly to that of what G2 had in the previous, even probably looking more dominant than G2 did in the previous game. I mean, Celeste, man. Celeste is a good pick. Good pick. pretty good hero,
Some good
if you ask me.
I like it. Scoundrels, diagnosis of how to win a Vainglory 8 game.
Pick Celeste. I think the problem with the G2 composition is if you aren't rolling ahead, if you aren't getting ahead, and I think they gave away the game pretty early on with that tower dive. If you aren't ahead with this composition, the range of it is so short, you are forced to engage. You're going to engage onto an alpha, which alpha really only has one mode. And you know, whenever we see an alpha, we always talk about it. You know, the Cruel has got a bit of versatility. He can peel, he can be aggressive. Alpha doesn't really have that. Alpha just has aggressive. You actually have to go, you know, ham with alpha. You have to, you know, stick to your target, fight and fight and fight. If you're going to run onto an alpha, you make her job 10 times easier. And with G2's composition, you know, they need to engage. They don't really have another directive. There's no fancy long-range poke game like the Calamity Reborn roster have with this Celeste. She's just slowly chunking down Keanu.
Yeah, it is going to be Hundor trying to get onto Leon and do the damage here. Hundor can't quite find it as Solar Storm keeps him alive for now, but Leon will go down to a resonance bounce before Hundor finds his demise. Another double kill goes over to Aeon. Man, that is impressive stuff, and Kianoko just about escapes here. I think the one difference, bringing back the Mouse versus G2 debate of this composition, since they are the two Vainglory 8 teams to play this composition here in Europe, is that the Mouse's style on the Vox, they build incredibly aggressive. It is literally tension bow, double tornado trigger, breaking point, because it can stack up very quickly onto a Celeste and you know, burst her down. The Fortress becomes a captain that does an incredible amount of first proc damage, which is obviously aimed for the Celeste as well. G2 don't play that style. They play like almost like a jack of all trades with their builds.
I think specifically, if you're going to run that style of position or this style of composition, you need, it's going to be singular threat like Mouse's, you have to build like that, because you need to have that one carry that you're trying to sort of protect or play around has to be the one that deals enough damage to deal with the rest of the team. So that is a correct build to go. Tension bow, double turrets, double tornado trigger into the breaking point. That, you know, that is the build that you want to be playing, because Vox has to be a carry threat. This Vox build, it's not going to stack up like crazy. It's not going to single-handedly one-shot a Celeste if he gets to it. This is a Vox build that plays off the front line and then dives in once he's got 15 breaking point stacks, 20 breaking point stacks, and then runs away with the fight. Not going to happen as easily against this Calamity Reborn roster, especially because Calamity Reborn are very, very happy to let G2 engage on them, and then have Eon, who I think very cleverly went for the breaking point second. It's a pretty standard build, but it works out so much more nicely in this situation because he's just there, hitting with core charge. He's getting huge breaking point stacks built up because the rest of G2 are so concerned with putting pressure onto Leon that he's just becoming a monster in these fights that's almost untouched because he's secondary thought for G2. There is no process in G2's minds that's like, well, we better deal with this alpha now. It's all about the Celeste. That's where Eon's just ripping apart the team.
Leon just has so much free charge. There's very little shielding, and look at the damage he's outputting. Here comes the Solar Storm. It's going to find one. It's going to take down the Crystal Sentry, eliminated. And now Hundo and Kiana Nakoa are struggling. A core collapse will find Kiana Nakoa, and a double kill will go over to Leon. A triple, in fact. Unstoppable on this Celeste. And now the shielding gets converted from tier 1 to tier 2 shieldings, but it's just not enough at this point. Calamity Reborn going to focus the furthest turret, since that's the one that doesn't get focused by a wave. Here comes the wave as well to take down the rest of the base. Calamity Reborn, 15 minutes in, an 12,000 gold lead. Will take game 2, and a series is on our hands.
And I would be very, very impressed if Celeste didn't become more of a priority in this next coming up draft. It might get banned on second rotation. It might even be warranted as a first pick for Calamity, or G2 might pick it up on their second pick rotation. But either way, it's going to definitely become a major factor here, because on both of these games, it has proven to be the linchpin of the competition. Give credit to Eon, though, 718 on this Weapon Power Alpha. That's not a bad score whatsoever.